Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of bad decisions, our review choices this week, because
Yes.
while we can't say that they were so bad that they gave us cancer, coincidence that my sinus infection turned into a nasty cold in the course of the week after watching these back to back on the same day? I think not.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So first up, we got the. Did it not? Did my? Oh, it didn't do it. Why didn't you do it? Okay. All right. Well, let me
The
just.
robots are rebelling.
Yes, the robots are rebelling. Okay. All right. Here we go. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So we watched the creator, which is on based on my suggestion because I've been curious about this movie. Um, I remember seeing we were talking about it during our box office talks and saw some of the advertising for it, and I thought, oh, okay, it's an original movie. It's not part of a franchise. It's like, okay, well, maybe this could be interesting. It wasn't.
Yeah, and I would say I would say it had some potential, but okay, Hollywood, listen carefully. Directors are not writers, and you need to force a second draft. It's what Rebel Moon did, it's what The Last Jedi did, and it's what the creator did.
Yeah.
I am forced to almost wonder if who's the director of this one again? I'm
uh, uh, Gareth Edwards, who
Gareth
did,
Edwards. Yes.
yeah, he directed Rogue One. Yeah.
Well, he directed Rogue One, and then wasn't he sacked, and then someone else came in to correct it.
Yes, yes, yeah. He directed about 2/3 of it, and then the last third, he got replaced by another director.
I am kind of forced, just like with Rebel Moon, to wonder if Kathleen Kennedy had a point to yank him from Rogue One, and I hate having to wonder if Kathleen Kennedy was making smart decisions.
Yeah, makes you wonder about Phil Lord and Chris Miller with Solo.
Oh, I can tell you that uh, having seen the Lego Movie and now Into the Spider Verse 2, which
Yeah.
is the second Miles Morales movie, that the tone of that one would have been so darned jokey
Oh
unless they
yeah.
were restraining themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. But to
But
get
yeah,
into
I guess
this,
we need to actually talk about this movie at some point.
yeah, yeah. Let's see. Get into this movie. So the creator is takes place in 2160 or 2065, I should say, about 50 years or 40 years in the future, and it's basically a world where at one point uh, humans were using AI for basically everything, but then the a nuke goes off in LA, which was caused by an AI, and now AIs have been outlawed in the United States, but in the what was it called? The Asian Republic. They
New
still
Asia Republic
New Asia Republic. It's still being AI is still being used, which
and
uh,
embraced.
yes, it's and it's really funny that all of the nations in of Southwest or Southeast Asia all came together
To love robots.
to low robots. Yeah.
Uh, And the cowards wouldn't say which actual country it was
Yeah.
because I think they just wanted to be able to cast anybody of any Asian extraction because one of the robots that are into later is Ken Watanabe and he keeps speaking in Japanese. And there is a language that they describe in the subtitles as New Asian.
Yeah. Ninja asks, "Is there one giant mecha robot?" No, there is not, but there is
So
a floating orbital weapons platform.
yeah, yeah. Um, and what's kind of interesting about this one is I hadn't quite grasped this, but I think it's meant to be a diverging timeline from the 60s because we're introduced to the AI with like a almost Fallout-esque retro commercial about how the AI are here to help us out.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
And I did notice that the guy who was the president celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the nuking of LA. I said, that guy has an awful lot of general's bars on his chest for a U.S. president. So I think we're supposed to assume that some things went awry.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking that too. I'm like, I mean, yeah. If we're so far down the line of presidential succession that we're into the military, we're in deep trouble.
Yeah, or the military has seized control. We don't really know much about the U.S. aside from the fact that L.A. is gone, or at least there's a big hole in the middle of L.A.
Yeah, and yeah, Ninja says that's unrealistic. One of those Asian countries would have built one. Yeah,
Yeah, the robots as presented in this one would not be especially great. Like we'll get into that in a minute, but I don't think they would be able to actually support their weight on a larger platform.
right. Yeah. So now, so you got the U.S. and the Free Asia Republic at war with each other, and we were introduced to Joshua, who is played by John David Washington, the son of Denzel Washington. You might have also seen him in Tenet. Uh,
I didn't, but other people might have.
I did, but yeah, um, but yeah. So he's undercover in this pro robot group, and he's got a wife that he's knocked up, and things go awry when the U.S. military shows up, and things go bad, and then Nomad, which is the floating orbital weapons platform that I mentioned, uh, just launches a cruise missile and takes them all out.
Right, and also Joshua loses his arm in the process. And so you cut to 6 years later, where he's taken an awful job, uh, basically decontaminating uh, the LA nuke zone.
Yeah,
And
and yeah,
they do something where where I kind of went, uh-oh, early on, because up till then it's like, okay, this is a bit melodramatic and stuff, but it's not too bad. But they had a scene where he was it I forget, was it mechanic or his therapist, and they start playing Claire de Lune in the background. It's like, oh no,
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's as basic a choice as pumpkin spice lattes.
Yeah. And yeah, and Fat Boy asks, so Nomad instead of NORAD, pretty much,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like North American Mobile Aerial Defense or something like that.
yeah, yeah. And he says it sounds like Elysium. Well, I haven't seen Elysium, so
Yeah, I can't comment either.
can't comment on that.
But so a woman who is suspiciously like a female version of Quaritch from Avatar shows up
Yeah.
to try to recruit him. Hey, we need you to go back in there. We found your wife.
Hmm.
Now, I'm immediately taken off guard here because the last time he saw his wife, she had realized that he was a double agent, pointed a gun at him, and I forget if she actually ever pulled the trigger, but she was clearly very tempted to, at the very least.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, But he acts like the chance to go find his wife again, as if all is forgiven, considering that he lied to her the entire time they knew each other.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And yeah, the so yeah, so they go into the spec ops team goes in, and it reminds me of Aliens, the way that they do it.
And they have some cool tech ideas there. They're
Yeah,
just like they have this wheeled platform that basically carries a bunch of artillery and stuff like that.
yeah. Hey, D Rhino, DB is a cat boy. Not quite. He's just a very
I'm a sick bobcat.
he's a sick bobcat. Yeah. Um, yeah, yeah, and they had the translation stuff that was pretty cool. It was interesting.
Yep,
Uh,
that was probably one of the stronger scenes in the movie.
yeah. And then all right. And then But then, of course, it all kind of goes to heck when Joshua goes into the vault and then he sees a little robot girl and
right?
they're watching TV.
Because they're there because we kind of cut this out because we're kind of focused on things not making sense. Um, his wife was reportedly the daughter of Nirmata, the person who had invented this AI technology in the first place, who the robots viewed as a god.
Yeah.
And he was sent in. The wife being alive was the lure. What they really wanted was that supposedly somebody was working on this AI super weapon that would be able to defeat Nomad. And
Hmm.
since Nomad literally cost $1 trillion, and it's their most successful weapon in the war against AI, which is we'll put a pin in that for later.
Yeah, yeah,
Why this is mildly stupid.
yeah.
Uh, um, and so they send him in because he has local expertise,
Hmm.
and they want him to grab this weapon. Well, the weapon turns out to be the little girl in the background there.
Yeah.
I should mention that a weird thing about the some robots in this world just have a disc shaped head.
Hmm. And yeah, and Ninja says, who wrote this part? The people who complain about Lois being mad at Clark for lying. Yeah, probably. And then they're at war with the AI. Okay, so
Uh, Now they kind of do like some Vietnam War on Terror type stuff, where
yeah,
it's like this movie is very anti-U.S. This
yeah,
might
it is. Yeah,
this might be an alternate universe where the U.S. is much more militaristic and evil than they are in real life, but uh, basically they say, "Oh, we're not at war with East Asia. We're at war with the AI that they're harboring. So people need to just get with the program."
yeah. A little, definitely parallels with the War on Terror on that one.
Yeah, but of course there's always collateral damage, so it's just like unpleasant.
Yeah,
Um, so he grabs this little girl, and it turns in. And the movie is supposed to be built on the two of them bonding over the course of his escape and their attempt to get her back to America. And his attempt, like his main focus is finding his wife.
yeah, and yeah, and their interactions are very like very muted. Like
Yeah,
I never get the sense that he ever really cares about her at all.
right. She is a means to an end for him. Now
Yeah,
I forget the actress's name. This was her first movie. She's pretty charming, and you get the impression that she is becoming more human and bonding with him over the course of the movie.
yeah, yeah,
You do not get the same impression from Mr. Washington, unfortunately. And
yeah.
I've seen him in one thing. You've seen him in two things. Is he the problem, or is the script the problem?
Um, hard to say. Tenet was just a very confusing movie, and it was very hard to keep up with the plot. Um, I
Right, that was
I
the one
honestly
run
think that
backwards, right?
what's that?
That was the one where it's run backwards, right?
Right, yeah, yeah, where it's time travel thing, yeah.
Right, right.
Um, I he did I think he's trying. I hate to kind of say this, but I think that there's a little bit of truth to it. I think he's trying to be like his dad.
Oh,
He's trying to act like his dad, and it's just not quite working.
yeah.
Um,
He didn't really have a lot of charisma in this one.
no, and I hate comparing him to his father because it's not really not that fair. It's not fair to do that, but I mean he doesn't have the same. He doesn't have the charisma that his father has. Yeah.
Right, and it's unfair to expect anybody to live up to their dad, but there we are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like he should be. Hopefully, he can become the best version of him he can be, rather than being a imitation of his father.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say the script didn't really do him any good. Because the character I don't think was very well written.
No, and there's also like lots of little world building things that seem weird on the face of it.
Yeah.
Like I actually had to ask the question: do these artificial robots eat? Because there is a scene where they're hiding out with one of his expat buddies who has a robot girlfriend, and the robot girlfriend makes a reference to, "Oh, we're out of ice cream," and it almost seems like she's offering the little girl robot ice cream, or like she's getting ice cream to mollify the little girl robot,
Yeah.
which we don't see another sign that they eat over the course of the movie. So does she know that her boyfriend just always wants to have some like strawberry ice cream around or something?
I don't know.
Uh,
Yeah, the whole reason for the ice cream was to give them the bad guys a reason to blow up the apartment.
right. It's like, uh, and there's also, let's see what else is weird. Also, for the U.S. For being an evil superpower that has banned AI, one of their weapons they use are these robots on legs
Yeah,
that are autonomous bombs that basically, like, nobody tries to shoot these things, so we don't know if they're just like bulletproof or what. But they
yeah,
basically just run up around barriers and explode.
yeah.
When a good old fashioned mortar or missile would just be way more effective.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't make any. Yeah, it didn't make any sense at
Eh,
all.
The weapon doesn't make sense, and you have to start asking questions about, okay, why is the U.S. employing one of these? It would be like having a faction that said, "Oh well, we ban guns," and then you find that they have, I don't know, an armed turret or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Just weird and yeah, I think yeah, I heard that Denzel's playing Hannibal, the Hannibal on the Alps.
Hmm.
It should be interesting. And is AI supposed to be a crappy race analogy? Wasn't getting that.
So there are some themes of people feeling like they're being replaced. Like they make a
Mhm.
reference to, why aren't there Neanderthals? They could do art and had language. Da, 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 da. We were
Yeah,
just meaner and we fought and effed them
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
into extinction. And that there's worries about that with the AI. Um, there's I would say though it's almost more like a metaphor for people being afraid of what they don't understand, kind of like an X-Men mutants type thing.
yeah, yeah,
The other thing is that this movie can be very sloppy at times. Like it's a big deal apparently that the U.S. has been lying the whole time. They knew that the AI didn't intentionally nuke Los Angeles. They just There's just a human error in a code that caused the missile to be launched.
yeah. Which that's like and you pointed it out when we were watching. It was like, well, what isn't that just that could be like AI propaganda that they spread around? Like,
Right. How does Ken Watanabe's character, who just seems to be a grunt soldier AI person, like how does he have access to this information?
yeah,
Like it would have made more sense for Joshua's old army buddy to know that.
yeah. But yeah, but he knew something else that was, a twist in a plot twist, which was not a very good plot twist.
Right. Um, then you have questions about the AIs themselves. Like they're able to strangle the AI,
Mhm.
which just raises further questions. To quote Futurama, like,
Yeah,
so the AI have to breathe?
yeah, they have lungs. Yeah,
Did you just start? Like, do you just have manufacturing? Are you just manufacturing arguably worse people
Yeah,
because they aim as well as humans or worse than humans? They fight as well as humans. They don't seem to have any sort of networking to let them communicate with each other because Joshua keeps befuddling whole groups of the AI with the silver disc heads.
yeah, uh, yeah. It's strange. I don't. Yeah, they don't explain the physiology of these robots very well at all.
Yeah, I also think that There's also a problem with Nomad itself as a weapons platform.
Yeah.
First off, it's never clear where Nomad actually is in relation to anything else. Because, but first off, in the opening scene, they're doing a stealth mission, and
Mhm.
Nomad is just floating there. It looks like 1,000 feet in the air because it looks so big. And
Yeah.
it's just shining blue lights down, scanning all over the damn place in the middle
Yeah.
of a stealth mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all the blue lights are targeting sites for these cruise missiles.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, what's wrong with a submarine or a warship?
Yeah.
Because they keep fighting by the ocean. You
Yeah.
don't need this giant Nomad device that's in
Mm.
orbit. Of course, it's there to set up a set piece at the ending.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, so sometimes Nomad is high enough that it's in the atmosphere. Sometimes Nomad is seems to be like it seems like you could almost load some fighters into it and go deal with it.
Yeah.
Also, the East Asian Republic has no fighter planes whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They have no air force, so yeah. So they can't just like get in planes and fly up and shoot it down.
Right. And I guess we've okay. So that's kind of our gripes about the mechanics of the movie is that like a lot of things weren't really thought through. Did you ever see the Disney movie Meet the Robinsons?
I didn't.
So they have a villain there who's basically a very tired little boy who grew up evil.
Yeah.
Um, and he often he's not the smartest villain. He's kind of being propped up by someone else. One point he summons a T Rex, and because it's time travel, and the T Rex is trying to catch somebody. And like, well, go get them. T Rex like, well, I have this big head and these tiny little arms. I don't think you thought this through very well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of this movie in a nutshell. Like, there's a lot of things where what was cool, what would look cool, trumped what would actually make sense for the story they were trying to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. They just like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's put that in there. Like, oh, well, wait, it's not working. Yeah, I won't worry about it. It'll be fine.
Don't worry, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Yeah.
Um,
Uh, yeah,
let's hear. So the other one of the pieces of technology that's kind of interesting is that if they come across somebody who's dead, they can download their brain for a minute and temporarily put them bring them back in a robot body, but it's very short lived.
yeah, yeah. That was twisted.
Yeah, the U.S. is not the good guys in this one in any way. Because there's no sign that the AIs have this technology.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
It's yeah. Yeah. It's uh, I was definitely I was getting serious Avatar vibes from this movie.
yeah, when you're ripping off James Cameron's Avatar, you're not in good company, unfortunately.
No, no. Yeah,
Um, Now, so in the end, it turns out that the guy's wife. We're just going to spoil this thing. So it
yeah,
turns out the guy's wife has been in a coma since the attack, and I guess they lost the baby, but she had already started working on the little AI girl, and she was based on their embryo. So I guess it's a
it's a yeah, their daughter in essence.
yeah, which implies that the robot is growing. So maybe the robot does eat. Then in what sense is it a robot?
Yeah, yeah,
That's where you kind of need to settle the mechanics of this. Because if you lived in a world where and we see AI factories, they just make them as adults. So a
yeah.
robot child should be confusing to people.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing too is people can donate their faces to be put on these robots.
Right, which Joshua would know that. And so him seeing a grainy image of his wife, I would think he'd be at least slightly suspicious of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, and also his wife is Nirmata. This we will only mention it in passing because it has so little impact.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. Nirmata is basically yeah. Well, you already explained it. Yeah,
yep. And so they go into space. They have a fight with a robot tentacle thing. Joshua sacrifices himself, but they uploaded a copy of his wife. Oh yeah, they pulled the plug on his wife.
yeah,
Apparently, the robots couldn't do that, but they were happy to let him do that for reasons.
yeah, yeah. Mm, mm, mhm.
And but yeah, they downloaded her memories and her katra to bring up Star Trek in
Right.
preparation for the next one.
Oh, right.
Uh,
Yes.
and and then they, he and the little girl go up, they destroy the satellite, and there's a schmaltzy thing where he had to tell her what heaven was, and she's like, he's like, oh, I'll see you in heaven, and it's supposed to tug at your heartstrings. But by this point, I was just so out of this movie.
Yeah, I was too. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, Gareth Edwards basically just copied his ending from Rogue One and put it in this movie.
And the weird thing is that um, the way pieces of Nomad are dropping onto the ground, those people should have been blown back by debris and seriously injured or killed. But they're just like all happy as it's collapsing.
Yeah. Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
And that's why you don't make Wunderwaffe. You don't make one big super expensive platform. You make a bunch of small, sane-sized platforms. Because if they'd been firing those cruise missiles from like from jet fighters or submarines or warships, well, we took out one.
Yeah, yeah. We still got a bunch of other ones to go. Yeah.
You know, but that's harder to do for a movie. And Star Wars kept making Death Stars as the big obvious target, so I can't in good conscience complain too much. But it's just like it's just another bit of illogic that the movie asks us to swallow. So when this first came out, I think that a lot of people in our circle or people like we watch for reviews were giving this the benefit of the doubt and just kind of enjoying it because it wasn't a franchise movie.
Yeah.
And then I feel like people kind of sobered up a little bit about it and said, "Wait a minute,
Yeah, yeah, wait a second. This movie sucks.
yeah, it's very pretty." Apparently, the way they
Yeah.
produced this was they bought some Sony digital camera, like hand digital cameras. So they're able to cut the budget a bunch because they could get some very dynamic shots just with a guy holding a camera instead of having to have cranes and dollies and things like that.
Oh, okay.
So that's part of how they're able to make this thing for 80 million. And for the budget, you compare that to some of the DC and Marvel movies we've reviewed this year. Like this is impressive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's visually very striking movie. I will give it that.
Which I feel like we keep having to say. It's like,
It,
stop skimping on the writing stage.
yeah. Yeah, just because something looks pretty doesn't mean it's going to be a good movie. You have to have depth to it. Yeah.
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 So I would say overall, I would say it's totally all right. Like it's not great. I think we were both bored of it about the midway mark. If I wasn't watching this to review, I would have given up on it.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I probably would have too. Yeah.
Sorry, my phone is blowing up slightly.
Oh, it's okay.
Nothing I have to deal with right now.
Yeah.
But so that was the first of our illness-inducing movies.
Yes, and Ninja says, I'm getting tired of games and films focusing on visuals over storytelling. It actually makes it look uglier most of the time. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I like those one. Maybe the writer is scared of AI script writers. Oh.
But the theme of the movie is that we should be happy to be replaced by AI. So that's the other
Yeah,
thing. You know what? I'm going to bring up something. East Asia is just a weird mishmash.
yeah.
Like they have a New Asia or New Asia I think
New Asia, yeah, New Asia Republic, yeah.
they have a whole new Asian language, but characters are constantly breaking into Japanese or Thai, and everybody just understands each other. So it's just like it looks like Vietnam, but it's just vague. It's too
Yeah, I couldn't tell where they. Yeah, it was kind of hard to tell where they were. It was either, yeah, like I say, it was either Vietnam, Thailand, maybe South Asia or South China, or
yeah.
somewhere around in there. Yeah,
And Ninja says something that I hear people say, like for movies like Wish. Nobody's so AI generative AI writing only became publicly available really like last year. So any movie, like we might see a couple of movies that used it at some point in production in the next year or so.
yeah,
But although I know that the Writers Guild worked very hard to try to minimize that,
Yeah.
with the main reason for their strike. Um, but like, I don't think any movies that we're going to be seeing for a bit could possibly have that done. It's sometimes it's just human incompetence.
Right. Yeah. And that's I think that's the case with this movie is just
So
yeah, not good.
I will say this was better to look at than Rebel Moon, to compare it to another movie that emphasized visuals over um, plot.
Yeah.
Um, definitely a better watch than that. Um, just not great, unfortunately.
No, not great. But but yeah, so I think we're ready to move on.
The floggings may cease now.
Yes, yeah. So